morning, humanity. It's July 1st, 2019, and it's Mondays with Bev and Paul. And good morning, my name's Paul.
And my name is Bev.
And we do that so those of you who haven't participated in us at least know who the heck you're talking to.
Right. Oh, that helps, doesn't it?
And for those who've been here with us every week, we love you. Thank you for joining us.
I know. It's
we get such good compliments about our program. You don't have to compliment us either. You can also criticize us.
Yeah. Constructively.
Yes. Tell us what you'd like to see on the show, and we'd be happy to talk about it. But today we're going to build on our workshop that we did, and we're going to talk about how does BioTouch help us die.
Well, isn't that an interesting...
Yes, it'll be very interesting to build on our little presentation from John Abraham. But first, we want to share with you the beautiful things that are happening in our center.
It just continues to do it, right?
If you haven't seen this yet on our Facebook post, there it is. Aren't those amazing? Those are done by Michelle, our Cardenas she's our, what do we call her?
She's our center coordinator.
Yeah, center queen? No, center.
Well, we just call
princess.
Her
that's it.
We call her the princess.
And she did those. The top left, that is an original of hers, and the other two are photographs that she took and manipulated. I guess that's the new kind of artwork, and then put them on canvas and stretched them onto wood on the back. They're just gorgeous.
They are,
and donated them to the center.
I know.
What
a difference! It really is beautiful.
So thank you, Michelle. If you go to our Facebook, if you want to just look at them, or come into our center if you're here in Tucson and see them in person. The one above the couch, as you can see, is about 4 feet long.
Yeah, it's
and 2 or 3 feet tall. Yeah. So it's awesome.
I know.
Very much presence.
Yeah.
Just like you. Very much in the present.
I try to be. Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about this death and dying. First thing we wanted to talk about was the workshop that we had in relation to that. We had John Abraham, who came and talked, and it was really interesting. People sort of taken back by his presentation. It was like, oh, that's not what I expected to hear.
Well, and it's kind of interesting anyway, because we're like, well, wait a minute, here we are living, and now we're talking about having a conversation about dying.
Yes. And he presented, so first of all, he's a thanatologist. And we just heard this morning there are only 200 of them in the world.
That's great.
The science of death.
Wow, we have one right here in Tucson.
And so he opened it up the whole evening to, well, why did you want to come? But one of his main things he was sharing with us was a group that we wanted to share with all of you, it's called the Final Exit Network.
Yes.
And it was an awesome presentation. If you have a loved one, their whole purpose is to help have compassion for the transition, for the exit, as they call it, and to give people a choice.
Right. Yep.
And they have, what do they call them, angels?
I think
they were angels.
Yeah, right.
They call them angels that come to your home
consultants,
and
sort of, but angels.
To help you die. And it was a very awesome presentation. Look it up, Final Exit Network. And as a thanatologist, somebody asked him, well, what does that mean? And he went into a description of the Greek word or something like that.
Oh, right.
And then they asked him, well, what happens at death? And he was awesome. He said, I don't know.
I know. When he said that, I'm like, oh, there you go.
Sounds like BioTouch.
Sounds like us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He says, you'll only know when you die.
Yeah, I like that because he said, he had his own private thoughts about it,
right.
But to speak it out and just say, oh, it's this or it's that, he's like, seriously, I haven't been through it yet. Yes. So I can't say. I don't know.
It always reminds me of Mahatma Gandhi, who said, all of life was a preparation for death. And you'll never know if you pass the test until you die.
Yeah.
So, it's nice to have, and it's sort of the same thing with BioTouch. We don't have a lot of concepts, which is why we always say, we don't know, just do it. And we want to talk a little bit here today about why BioTouch is it just sort of takes off on that whole death and dying concept.
Yes, it really does.
One of the things that I asked him was, what's beautiful about dying? What's the beauty of
Mm-hmm.
the death experience? And one of his main things he said was touch.
Yes. Yeah, he was mentioning being surrounded by your loved ones, being at home, where you
Yes.
feel comfortable, and the touching. And I thought, well, that's why we say that BioTouch changes the quality of that experience
Right.
for everyone, not just the one going through the transition, but the loved ones too.
And we had a lot of people at it too, including one of them, Cheryl, who's with us this morning. Hi, Cheryl.
Good morning,
And
Cheryl.
you can tell us how you liked the little workshop too.
Yeah.
So touch, yeah, was important, and that's what we do with BioTouch. And I've worked with numerous situations in the death and dying process with BioTouch,
Yes, you have.
and it was just awesome, And but we'll talk about that in a minute. What we wanted to talk about was this reading that we found about death, about the whole preparation for death, and we got this from Ramdas, and it just came up this morning, or yesterday morning.
Interesting.
And I thought it would just
Timing.
be perfect. Yeah, perfect to read. So this is from one of his little writings. He does postings, and this is a little section out of there about the how to prepare for death.
So he says, one dies as one lives. What else can better prepare you to die than the way you live? Part of your relationship with yourself is taking responsibility for the care of your body and doing the things that promote good health. The body is the temple of the soul, the temple of your spirit. It is the vehicle for you to stay in this incarnation and become a fully conscious being. The vehicle for you to become one with God. Honor it. Take care of it. I was not fully conscious in the way I dealt with my body, and I paid a big price with the stroke that I had.
So, I mean, what a self-awareness for him, and what an inspiration for us.
Yes, what an inspiration. Because I think we've actually, and you and I have talked about this in different ways on all of our shows. Humanity has been looking at the body in so many different ways that we've actually forgot exactly what Ram Dass is saying. It is a home for something that is greater than this little personality, this little ego. It holds the promise of something greater. And so, when I was reading that, I was just reminded that the quality of our daily living is what makes the difference. To be conscious of what this body is, and to live every day in that knowing. It's amazing.
And that's why I do BioTouch. We've talked about it on the show all the time.
Right.
It's funny. People ask me all the time why you got involved, and it wasn't really in the sense that bodies got better, but it was about addressing the body to help us wake up in our relationship to our body. Yes. As it relates to its surroundings. That's all we can be aware of. It's not me judging somebody else, or I can do all these practices, but changing my self-awareness, and addressing that body and leaving all the other stuff alone. We don't tell people how to change their life, what they should believe, because it really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but the difference is that when you start, living in that self-awareness, and we've said it many times, that's really the foundation of what we are here to teach about BioTouch for each of us, that self-awareness. But when you when that takes you into this other place, then you can't help it. You start to have these different choices, these different opportunities, and a self-awareness that, maybe there is something more to me than this, pain, suffering, whatever else I've been going through, because it's at that point that we get to, become aware of all the possibilities that we are.
Right. And those possibilities, like you just said, a pain could go away. We become aware of the pains too. Oh, I'm really hurting here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there it goes. Oh, here's another. So we start watching the body unfold.
Yes,
We
yes.
become observers instead of just victims of it. And BioTouch helps do that just by doing that greeting and just by letting people find their own space, their own path, and just touch the body gently as if a butterfly's landing on you. It's like Lou used to say. You're
Yeah,
just sort of saying, come, follow me.
I
Just
love
he
that.
loved the
That's so
gentleness of
beautiful.
it.
That
So
is, yeah.
and so Ram Dass talking about, that's, learning how to live is a preparation on how to
How to
die.
die. That's absolutely wonderful.
So we're trying to create BioTouch as part of your living experience. And next week, hopefully, we'll talk about how we change that habit in the subconscious mind. But that's another story.
That's another show.
Today, we just want to share with you about how BioTouch can help in that transition. So we're going to read one other thing that he talked about, and in later on in his little paragraphs, his little synopsis that he wrote.
He says, being here now is experiential. When you are in the moment, time slows down. In the moment, you have all the time in the world, but don't waste a moment. Who you really are is beyond time. Yeah, and so the reason that we really wanted to, read that is because, again, what we've said so many times about when two people practice BioTouch together, what happens? You
Disappear.
the time, yeah, you're so present with another human being. It's almost like the time space continuum meets in that moment, and that's all there is.
And it really, I'll work on someone with someone in a center setting, or and all of a sudden that 20-30 minutes is like over, and that doesn't make me a better healer than anybody else. It just, and I think the more we practice it, the more it brings us into the present, and the present. Pretty soon it becomes part of our life. You start touching the world lightly. You start touching your relationships lightly. You start touching yourself and your judgments lightly. You start doing what Louis used to say, just let yourself be loved.
Oh, right.
In the
right.
present moment. You can't do it tomorrow or later. And it reminds me of working with people. I worked with this woman, Bibi, and she was dying in the hospital. And every time I could do BioTouch on her, there was just this presence. And I noticed in that, being able to do BioTouch with her, it allowed it allowed me to participate in her dying experience. There was this sort of like clouds would come around. It just was so in the present. And I could go in that room and there'd be friends of hers sitting around crying, and, they were going to lose, a loved one. And the minute I would go up to Bibi and touch her, everyone calmed down. The tears stopped. Everyone lived in that present moment of the experience of dying. There's an experience there that BioTouch sort of lets you participate in.
You know what I was just thinking about when you were talking about that? Remember in the movie Ghost at the very, very end, when he says to her, and she's like very sad that he's finally going to make that choice to go. And what does he say to her? Oh, you take the love with you. You're here. I love you, but you take that love with you. And that's what it reminds me of. BioTouch can help prepare us in that dying to really, the reason why everybody quiets down is because that whole sense of there's so much more beyond just this experience of dying. It is the love that's always there.
Didn't you have that experience with your mother when she was dying?
Oh my goodness, I did. And like you just said, I've just felt so honored that I was on that journey with her, because it helped me so much when we would do BioTouch together. And it helped me deal with a lot of things. So I will say this one time when you were talking about just being present with somebody, that I remember working with a recipient here at the center, and I don't know, all of a sudden I was so incredibly present. It was like I was in rhythm with his body. And he actually said to me, "Oh my goodness, you are, it's like we're one right now." That was wow, what's possible?
It's a dance.
It's a
Biotouch is the dance
dance.
of life.
I
Biotouch
felt
is the
like,
sway of life.
I
So
know.
just touch.
Wonderful.
Just let's create biotouch as the new dance form.
Aw, that's nice. Yeah.
And we don't need headphones or anything because we'll hear the music as we touch. So, as a preparation for death, let's practice biotouch to live. Let's let our bodies start, developing themselves to be happy, healthy, and loved.
Let's do that.
Yes. So let's teach you a little bit. And we always just love teaching the greeting because, if that's all you could do with someone in their coma or in their process of dying, you'll have some amazing experiences. If nothing else, the person in the coma just lets out this sigh. It's like they know there's another human being with them.
They're being touched.
Yes,
they're being
as
loved.
They're leaving this sentient.
Yeah.
So here's our manual, and we're going to teach you just the simple greeting again.
The greeting is always performed at the beginning of each session. It's the only set that uses one hand and the only set that indicates which hand to use. The greeting is performed with the dominant hand. If you are right-handed, use your right hand. If you are left-handed, use your left hand. The greeting is made by touching at point 1, which is in the fleshy area just below the bottom of the breastbone or sternum. Hold this point for 6 to 8 seconds. Then, with the same 2 fingers, touch point 2 on the back. To find point 2, look for the big bone at the base of the neck. From here, move 1 to 1.5 inches to the left. This is point 2. Hold this point for 6 to 8 seconds. More than one associate may work with a recipient provided that all of the associates perform the greeting. If the associate or the recipient leaves the session, or if someone who hasn't done the greeting touches either the recipient or the associate, the greeting must be reestablished. Then the session may proceed from where it was interrupted.
It's a family affair.
What? We should post that in our a family affair.
Biotouch is a family affair.
Family affair, and what a better way to prepare for death than a family affair of developing a life of touch, of healing. It doesn't get better. It just doesn't get better.
True. And we were saying this the other night when we were talking to the people who were at the workshop. And what's really important to realize about biotouch in those times of transition or that biotouch does not just change the quality of the experience for the one who's going through the transition of dying, but those who are there, whether you're a caregiver, a family member, a friend, you're actually being given something in the gift of biotouch that you can contribute to the quality of this person's transition. And I'm telling you, you will have an experience as well as the one giving it. It's just an amazing, beautiful gift.
So if you're on our Facebook here and you've had an experience doing biotouch for life or through the transition, just jot it down there. Let's share it on our Facebook posting here of how you've used biotouch. And we have another workshop coming up. These workshops just are getting better and better and better.
We're getting amazing presenters.
And we have a presenter this time coming up. Dr. Stender's coming back to us again. And this one's going to be digestive issues. And he's a chiropractor. He also, as it says here, studied in functional medicine with emphasis on intestinal permeability.
Wow.
So he knows a little bit about what happens to the digestive system. And he works a lot with people. He has his own clinic, Stender Health Solutions and Ultimate Health Coaching. So that's going to be July 25th, 6 to 8 p.m. If you can't come to the center, we'll live stream it, and then we'll always post it. So,
yep,
should be great.
It's going to be good.
As you are all great. And just to let you all know, there'll only be 4 more in-persons with Bev and Paul. She'll be leaving at the end of the month, so they'll all be via Zoom and the internet, which is funny because I've been thinking about, people say, are you going to have a going away party? And the funny thing is, I don't feel like you're going away.
I know. I'm just like, huh? Why would I have a going away party?
Right. So it really is going to be awesome as we prepare for Bev moving to Oregon with her brother, and how we're going to do this whole digital life in presenting BioTouch with you.
I'm really excited. Yeah. I'm curious, too, how we're going to make this happen, because we will.
We will make it happen.
Yeah.
So we'll see you all next week.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you again for being
Paul.
here.
Thank you, everyone. Have a glorious week.
If pain has got you down and you live in town, take a trip down to Pima Street. The people down there are people who care. They will get you back on your feet. Put love into action. Put love into action. If you ever want